I'm building another board, a classic Kill Team 22 by 30, and I've built many a board in the past, well 3, and I'm not that good at building boards. I built a Manufactorum board that I think is epic, although I do think what saved me was the epic cool terrain created by Radium Minis, and not so much my foam work and paint work, which is a little bit amateurish. After that, I made a board in 12 hours, a Chaos Demon board. And I'm very proud of that board, although it does look a little bit like the rush job it is, because I built that in a 12-hour period. It was mostly just sand and glue. This board, I want to be perfect. Ooh, and I also built a third board, an Eldar Craft World. And the reason that you've never seen that board is because it looked pretty poopy, and so we never actually went ahead and finished that board. I am a board making noob, but I want to get better, and I want this board to be absolutely perfect. This board is gonna be made out of 2-inch rigid insulation foam, the best possible thing to make a board out of. And I think a knife is gonna be the best way to cut it. All right, I'm through. And it was crooked, but it was still pretty good. Yep, even more crooked, but that'll be just fine. But now it's time to explain what I'm actually doing. These pieces are all part of our December Patreon release created for us by Radium Minis, excellent mini maker, and it's going to make for a Mad Max style wasteland full of cars and tires and grease and metal, and I absolutely cannot wait. But as you can see, it's just a jumbled mess of parts, so I actually have to put it all together. That is 2 of the vehicles finished, and they're all gonna need a name, and so I'm gonna call this one Thing 1 and this one Thing 2. Oh, there we go, easy as pie. Is that a real expression? Doesn't sound right. But yeah, that is the truck, and I love it. And I'm gonna name him Mater. So Furiosa named hers the War Rig, so I'm gonna name mine the Love Shack. These models are super cool, but I'm not using them as models, I'm using them as terrain. So I've got to decide exactly where I want everything on the board. Sky's the limit, I got nothing but options here. I got me a car and it's as big as a whale and it's about to set sail. Yeah, definitely this right in the old middle. And then I've just got tons of little optional extras here. Something like that, create these little pathways. And these are one of my favorite pieces of all time. Nick designed these, and it's just a good old-fashioned crate and barrel. You got some barrels, you put them on a little crate, little pallet, and they just look beautiful. Super simple, barely an inconvenience, but man, do they really spice up a world and make it look real. Yeah, I think something just like that. It's really important when building a Kill Team board or any gaming board is to make sure that your models always have options. Always important for your cute little Space Marine to have not only firing lines, but cover lines. He can hop up onto the cabin of this car, he can scooch behind these little barricades, he can hide behind this stack of barrels, he can get on top of these, get behind these, and those sorts of things are really, really important because if there's a sucker up here just trying to get a good shot on him, he's got to have some cover to hide behind just so that he doesn't get absolutely demolished. I'm gonna take a picture of this, but I'm also going to paint on lines around all of these objects. In the past, I've used a Sharpie. Don't use a Sharpie because whatever resins are in these Sharpies, it'll bleed right through multiple layers of paint and you'll be able to see those Sharpie marks, especially on the light colors that I'm going to be using on this board. So a little yellow for small terrain, and then some Atlantis blue for the cars. All right, everything is perfectly marked out now. I can pull it all off and begin to truly make this board. All right, Love Shack, time to move. You know, now that I look at it without all of the things on there, I think I forgot just a little something. I think really we need something kind of like this. think that would really add something special. There we go. Now it's perfect. I want to gouge into it and make the board very uneven. Hole, 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 hole. Could use a couple more holes. Everyone could use a few more holes. I didn't even factor in that I could use these chunks to build elevation. I don't know why I didn't. I thought they would just disappear, I guess, when I cut them, but I am gonna glue them back down, and that's gonna save me a ton of puttying later. I have this sheet of diamond plate plastic, and so I'm gonna cut it into little chunks as if they've put this on the ground to help keep their feet off of the hot sand. So they're gonna put their feet on a burning hot metal. Woo! Got myself. Next thing I wanna do is I wanna work with some putty to really smooth everything out. What I really wanted was plaster, but I called like every store near me and no one had plaster. And so I'm gonna use Duraham's Rock Hard Water Putty. This stuff starts its life as an off-white powder, and then you mix it with water, and then it gets really, really hot and it cures in about 40 minutes. It's rock hard after 8 hours, and it's rock hard. Like, you really can't sand it. Skateboarders use this to fill cracks in their cool skate ramps. But I'm gonna use it to make a quilting board. All right, did I think this through? Do I ever think anything through? Not really. Maybe smooth it out with my hands. Oh yeah, there's something to that. Just squish that in there. Yeah, now we're talking. All right, let's make a really big batch now. I mean, just look at that guy. That's a face you can trust right there. I trust that man and his very skimpy shorts. All right, I could futz with this all afternoon, but I think I'm good with it right now. So I need to find a safe space for this while it dries. There we go, perfect. All right, come here, Mr. Love Shack. I need to give everything a black prime. I always give everything a black prime, but here it's gonna be even more important because these models are very beautiful and very detailed. So inevitably I'm gonna miss tons of spots. So black and unnoticeable will be a lot better than white or gray. And speaking of these beautiful and detailed minis, Radium Minis is a wargaming fanatic who is always making cool terrain. His newest offering is a pay-what-you-want Kickstarter, the Wasteland Crawler and Noodle Bar, featuring a converted tractor-type vehicle pulling a futuristic food stand, complete with walk-up railing and tables. The doors have slots for magnets and the roof comes off for ease of play. The detail is incredible with sculpted battle damage and tattered cloth that washes and dry brushing will love. And you get a wonderfully sculpted grill full of delicious foods that I'm sure are ethically sourced. Reports of recycled wastelanders making their way into the sausage have been greatly exaggerated. And the pack has separate tiny foodstuffs so you can create the thriving apocalyptic restaurant you have always dreamed of. This terrain is wonderfully playful and thematic, perfect for games like Kill Team, Necromunda, or Star Wars Legion. And again, this is a pay-what-you-want Kickstarter, so no need to worry about the price tag. Radium Minis is a wonderful resource when it comes to filling up your gaming tables with terrain that tells a story. And if you want to stay up to date, you can join their mailing list, where in addition to getting the inside scoop on what they're working on, you will gain access to some free STLs in the Barricade Mega Pack. Follow the links in the description below to fill your gaming tables with all sorts of radiant, radioactive Radium Minis terrain. I'm gonna do a zenithal of one of my favorite colors, Vallejo Stonewall Gray. It really smells like Vallejo paint. All right, now I actually have to make decisions. What color are things going to be? Painting very detailed terrain is a lot of fun because I can work messy and get great results. I want these cars to look aged, so I picked oranges and reds, which will create a rusty effect. I'm gonna run and gun, spray the models down with paint, then sponge it away using a paper towel. This is what most of my mornings look like. I still have the Kill Team Into the Dark terrain to paint, and this is making me think like, well, maybe my Gallo Dark is really, really old and rusty. Next up is a black wash. I'm gonna do a homemade one because I think I would bankrupt myself trying to put null oil on all this. The way I do a wash is I use some black ink. I'm using a cheap as dirt Higgins because I want to use it up. Bloop. A few drops of burnt umber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5. And then a little splash of Flow Aid. A generous helping of matte medium. And then lots of water. And whenever you're painting anything, you always want to use the biggest brush you can get away with. So I'm using this one. When you use an airbrush, everything goes so fast. But now I'm back to a normal brush. All right, now do I put a black wash on the vehicles? I think yes. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I could maybe even go just a little heavier. The layering on of glaze after glaze worked phenomenally. There's a lot of really nice subtlety going on each piece, but there's not a focal point to any of these pieces. I don't know if there should be, it is terrain, but I'm gonna do some dry brushing of silver just to try to bring out some of the little spikes and details. It's catching on every little rivet, on every little spike, every little piece of detail. And it's just doing a little edge highlighting. You just get to do these steps that are usually on a miniature, tiny, tiny little steps that you can barely see, but on this much large stuff, you really get to see it come to life. All right, all the vehicles are done. It's time to clear it off and get back to the board. Ooh, okay, and what's next? What's next? Painting. And I got the big brush out for this. Okay, so what color? I like to pick my color schemes very carefully, thinking thoroughly about color theory, so I'm just gonna go with this. There we go. And let's throw a little mustardy yellow in there. I wanna show you the real way. More of this nutmeg around the outside to give it a little bit of like a vignette. Oh yeah, layers. It's all about them layers. All right, now for some sand. I've used school glue in the past and that worked fine, but I want to try Mod Podge because I think this might be a little stickier. Oh yeah, that smells like the good stuff. How do I get it on there? Just like that. All right, that's a little horrifying to see the board just covered in white goo, but I think it's perfect. Some larger pebbles. I can hear them sticking. Perfect. And now for some fine grain sand. What's the best way of doing this? Interesting to see how the color of this sand impacts the paint that I already have down there. I assume a lot of it's gonna show through and a lot of it's gonna get covered. And if I have to fix anything, I can do that with the airbrush on top. All right, I think that's gonna be it. Now it's perfect. There we go. Okay, well now I guess I gotta wait because that's gotta dry. I want to build a cell tower to go somewhere on the board. I'm going to build it out of these big old matches. They're pretty square and they're pretty big, so this should give me a great foundation to build this 5G enabled cell tower. Boom! It's a tower! There it is. You can see a lot of the color has come back since the glue is dried, mostly dried. Although you can see some parts of the sand are like really bright, and that means that they didn't get any glue on them. But I do want it to stick there. So I'm gonna put on another layer of Mod Podge, which seems a little glossy. Maybe I should have gotten Mod Podge matte. Ah! I think that might do it. Got this lovely medium grit sand. Yeah, that does a really good job of breaking it up. There we go. And this is perfect because if I actually tried to like brush on more Mod Podge, I would completely destroy the sand. But this just settles right where it needs to go and hopefully it'll lock it all in place. Or I'm gonna pick it up tomorrow and it'll all roll off, but I doubt it. It's been about 8 hours and ooh, it seems like it's perfect. It seems like the Mod Podge spritzing is really holding the sand, even the big piles of sand. The colors are pretty good, although the sand is a different color to the paint that I actually applied, and so it's standing out a little bit as fake to me, so I think a little airbrushing on top just to bring all of the different shades together.
Right back when I'm falling off it. Boxed in when I'm smoking on it. Less stress when you bless me with it. Shit gets dark when you wanna come up. Where did you go? You come and you leave. You never seem to be there when I need you the most. Getting lost in my own flow.
Yeah. Oh, super interesting. Now, do I dry brush it? Dry brushing it might give it that old classic Games Workshop look, but it might also make the sand look really nice. I think I'm gonna try just a little bit. To cathedrals in the sky, I ride through the night. Yeah, that did it. That really did it. My favorite thing it did is it changed my fish tank pebbles into nice tan rocks that are meant to be in this landscape. Ooh, I think this board is done. Well, it's not done, but the actual surface of the board is done. The edges of this board aren't beautiful, but I'm hoping just a coat of black paints will make everybody forget about it. I mean, who's gonna be looking at the edge of the board when I got Mad Max cars? You know what, while I got this black out, I think I'm gonna prime up this tower. Whew, I think this really goes to show if you start out with something beautiful, it doesn't take nearly as much effort as when you're working with something made out of popsicle sticks and school glue. But I'm happy with this. All right, I think it's finally time to put everything into place. Seeing everything in situ, it's so cool. It's just like what was in my mind. It's so beautiful. But there's still a few things I'd like to change. Everything is looking a little bit too clean. I mean, those tires are right off the assembly line, so I'm gonna spray a little bit of this tan to hopefully integrate them better into their sandy environment. Now everything looks like it was meant to be there. The only thing left is Tomater. He really should have glass in these windows. To make smashed glass, I like to work with a gray base with some fine squiggly lines of black and then tracing over those lines with some squiggly lines of white. There we go, some nice spidered windows. There it is. It is perfect. Everything exactly where it was when I designed it. But is that a good idea? Right now, everything is exactly how I want it, but is that the best possible solution for this board? I could glue it all right now and it would stay perfect forever, but maybe that's not the move. Maybe there is something to be said for modularity. To glue or not to glue, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler on this board to suffer the slings and arrows of non-modularity for perfect terrain placement, or to leave unanchored and allow the whims of fate to decide its place. To die, to dream no more, and by a dream to say kill team boards forever more interesting for no more heartache of terrain becoming stale from 1,000 identical games that glue is heir to. I'm not gonna glue it, that's what I'm trying to say. This is how the board's gonna stay. It's gonna be unglued, and I think that's probably for the best. Maybe while we're actually gaming, we're gonna find out that we like the love shack on a side or in the corner as opposed to smack dab in the middle. It's just gonna give us a lot more options. And it's all done. It is all done and ready for models. If you like how this board turned out as much as me, don't forget, you can get all this terrain. It's available to our patrons in the month of December. My goal was to set out to make my best board, better than my previous boards, and I think I definitely achieved it. Although these themes are very cool, the demonic forest and the mechanical construction factory, I really, really like this one. This one feels the most like a snapshot of a real location. I could see playing this map in a video game. It actually is giving me big flashbacks to like Call of Duty Rust, but more with like the placement of objects from like Call of Duty Black Ops Nuketown, with all of the cars set up right in the middle. Oh, it's gonna be so much fun to play on. And the modulating of the landscape actually really, really makes it look like real ground, real turf, where the demonic forest is just kind of, I don't know, bumpy. This actually feels like a natural environment with dunes and little hills and small cliffs poking out. I am really, really happy with this board, and I cannot wait to get some kill team going on it.